Uh, Hello everyone, how are you? Today we are going to talk about the case of the wine company in China. The group is conformed by Luisa Fernanda Pineda, Valeria Perez, María Isabel Arrieta, David Jaramillo, Santiago Londoño, and Felipe Aguilar. Okay, we need to start about the contest. We need to know. First one is that Frederick Family Wines is a company that makes wines and that is located in the United States. The second one that is the first part of the case that the company have a contract on issues related to some grapes, but at the end of the year this contract will be end. About this situation, we have a other company have two options. The first one is that the company can renew that contract 1 year, and the second one is look for expand the industry, the company, and do some exporting to other countries because the company didn't want to sell a large quantity in the USA. When they do the investigation, they know that China was a potential market to expand because the economic in that country grew up and being generated. For that question or investigation, the result, the company talked to Bartlett to ask to make a strategy for the foray into Chinese market before rejecting the renewal of the contract. And the company do the investigations and discovered that the potential market of China, there was a good option to do some or sell that the products. We need to consider some things about Chinese market. There is the wine in country is gliding strange that the red wine signs represent a certain affinity with the culture, something like the flag of the country that is red. And the third one is that in occasion special and reach and point where the wine will represent a status symbol. Okay, and already you know the context, the situation of the company, why did you choose or select China? And in this case, we need to talk about the challenge or the questions to solve in that paper. At first, we have the challenge. The first thing is choosing the best strategy to implement in the company. The strategies we have something for we have four strategies and we need to choose one. The first one is use traditional import and distribution channels. The second one is take advantages of online sales. The third one is partner with a logistic provider. And the final is create a Chinese investment. And the questions that we have to resolve or to solve about that strategy is five. The first one is should Frederick family proceeded with its plan to sell wines into China. The second one is what were the biggest barrier to doing so. The third one is what of the four strategies would you recommend and why. The fourth is how would it distinguish its wine from other foreign wines being imported in China. And finally, what go-to-market strategy was the largest risky given the Chinese market dynamics, including but not limited to the uncertain environment for the luxury goods in the current government crackdown on corruption and excess consumption.
Okay, so now let's talk about the development and possible solution of this hypothesis. So it was very important to analyze, of course, the viability of exporting and the positioning the Frederick family wine brand in the Chinese culture, but we think that more importantly is to identify the way by which this would be done, besides all the facts that we are talking about, such as the completely different culture between the Napa's culture and the Chinese culture, that it's a country with which the wine brand has had no previous contact, and that the possibility of failure is very high when faced with relevant factors to enter to that country, such customs, cultures, market regulations, among others. So, four options were analyzed to introduce their product in the market. So, let's see. So the first one tried to use traditional distribution channels, but the biggest problem of this option was that his wine would maybe leave behind the prestige. It has been growing for many years in his country and would become a common supermarket wine. And we think that that's not the idea. That's not the point. The second option talk about taking advantages of digitalization and making online sales. But the reality of this option is that on the one hand, a strong financial muscle is needed, of course, because we have to carry out efficient campaigns to reach at first the screen of these possible buyers and of course analyze what type of content this culture consumes and through what channels. So it's gonna be very expensive. In case the second option is viable, we have to take into account the issue of shipping and, of course, exports. So, this is why we present a third option where we intend to partner with a logistic provider and make a safe and unhurried shipment. However, it is complicated, of course, to find a logistic agency capable to dealing with shipping, process, tariffs, trackings, and legal issues that guarantee that there will be no monetary and risky increase in the imports. So that's quite difficult, but I think that it's the best option till now. The last option it is to intend to create an investment in China, but definitely this would imply very high cost since it is necessary to almost start from the beginning. And anyway, there will be inputs that must be important to China from Napa to preserve, of course, the quality and similarity for the product. So, as explained above, each of these options presents challenges for the company, but as a group, we conclude that the most viable option is the option number three. Because although the issues of tariffs and legislations, it's so important on an export, and it's a factor that must be dealt with any other country where you want to enter. So in addition, having Annie as an intermediary between the logistic provider and the wine company, you will have more control, over the process and acquire from her relevant knowledge of the culture that can be transmitted to the FFW by having such a direct contact.
Okay, so should Frederick family proceed in its plan to sell wine into China? If they wanted to double their wine production, the decision they must take is just going abroad. The wine of the Frederick family is characterized by its scarcity and its price is higher than the regular ones for this reason. Flooding the American market will make lose the added value of this wine, so that's why they need to look for new markets. Why China? China is always a good option to expand due to its large population, also because it is a world economic power with the United States, and besides that, China has been open to foreign products. In the case of wine, its reception in recent years has been exponential. The Chinese wine market started to explode after 2000, when the country ranked as the 51 largest wine importer in the world. But by 2011, China is in the fifth spot of this rank. Okay, so the advantages to go to China are that the Frederick family winery brand image will expand globally. Their local responsiveness will be well developed with the work that they could do in China, and expansion of wine culture also is uh, also is an objective. And Results just could be seen if there is a good job in terms of research, distribution in channels, legal and cultural frameworks in China. Okay, so now in this process of expansion towards China, we could find many barriers. Thinking globally, in recent years, the demand for wine has decreased to the point that the global production surpassed the demand. So many producers have to expand in order to sell their production. Thinking locally, China is a culture much closer to beer, and this is why wine loses its charm there. Wine is normally sipped, where its flavor, smell, and all the characteristics that we could find are evaluated, allowing you to know which one you like the most. But that's not the case in China. They drink the wine as a beer, and the customer would not recognize the brand of the wine. Also, another barrier is the fact that the wine consumed in China comes mainly from France. In 2017, almost 40% of imported wine was French, and just 4% was from United States. Also, the Chinese consumers recognize most Bordeaux wines than wines from Napa, and China in its culture has had a barrier against the Western culture. They call it the Wild West, where they seek to avoid mixing their culture with that of the American and European continent. And finally, the Frederick family will also face difficulties in terms of regulations or laws in China.
Okay, so now we have the question. Which of the four strategy would you recommend and why? So we think that the main sales channel for the Frederick family is going to be partnering with a logistical provider. But we don't want to leave the other option out because it has hypothetical case and we don't have a budget. So we will also consider the point of the other strategies. Also, we need to consider the lack of experience of the Frederick family in the international market. Can guarantee good results. And even more, so when we speak for a market such as China, that's a country culturally different from what the family already knows, and that's really complex. Even between the same inner regions in China, there are very significant cultural changes, which means that by expanding into a market like this, all the complexities and regulation of the supply chains and cultural difference should be known in detail. So the Frederick family will have to forget the exciting import distribution and retail channel and focus on a logistical provider. Some of the points to consider are positive. Number one, the logistics provider offers their service to make the export of the Frederick family's wine profitable. Number two, logistics provider offer to significantly reduce costs for the Frederick family because they are equipped to handle for the fulfillment process in an efficient and stable manner. Negative. Number one, the Frederick family will face difficulty in controlling their brand and ensuring compliance with regulation. The Frederick family must exploit the FCI and must adapt the product to the market as in the following two cases. Number one, for meetings in China, it is customary to toast which wine the Frederick family will have to adapt their presentation for a more compact size and friendly with this environment. Number two, Chinese culture. Tend to give gift, so the standard size presentation will be a good option to boost in this environment.
Okay, now, how they will stand out from other foreign wines in the Chinese market. The challenge for the company is also to stand out among these existing wines in the Chinese market. The company can do it through these differential factors that I will mention that play in their favor and they must communicate them so the consumer identifies and prefers them. First is that it is a family company with great experience and traditions that has been producing high quality wines for 50 years. Second is that its vineyards are located in Napa Valley, which is a region that is known worldwide for producing the best red wines, which are the favorites for the Chinese. Napa Valley has optimal conditions to grow the highest quality grapes because of the climate and the geography it has. And third, they produce ultra premium wine. And this is a much higher level of quality that Chinese are used to. And there are some key factors that also have helped that they stand out in China. First one is that the wine market is gaining strength. Second, that China has a 52% preference for foreign wines. And third, the Guanxi culture that it has a very special meaning in the Chinese negotiations.
So, what is the less risky go-to-market strategies? For us, it is not a secret that all of the go-to-market strategies presented in the paper are attractive in their own ways, as explained before. But specifically, it is not about what is the less risky one, it's which fit better for the Frederick Family Winery that called FFW. According to a case study, the less risky strategy for them to develop is to partner with a logistic provider while Ain Bartlett traveled into China and researched the Chinese markets besides the provider. It is considered also that Ain might run a subsidiary to be in charge to branding control and better understanding of regulations and laws, but to avoid any bad experience that FFW could pass through not having a business unit in this market. This strategy is addressed for the specific case study because in first place it is concluded that FFW would rather a partner within China market to pioneer their international growth. However, the company does not acknowledge anybody there. For that reason, it has been asked Ain to go there because she is specialized in global dynamics. Consequently, she would better understand that FFW owner the Chinese wine market, being physically, of course. In second place, they are willing to hire an enterprise with a fixed investment and share any upside with that division head. In the last place, FFW do not want to sell their products locally due to its domestic brand image might be deteriorating. Instead, rather to put prices high to simulate the scarcity feeling and go with its products. And in addition, it is identified that FFW local competitive advantage is the product which could be exploited by FCA, firm specific advantage, by adapting their top-selling wine that is ultra-premium Frederick Family Cabernet Sauvignon, which it would be launched two types of product. The bottle will be little as a beer bottle, and according to a Chinese way of drinking wine, they drink immediately instead of sipping in the traditional meetings or business meeting, which is called guanxi. Another that will be an ordinary size for gifting, which people is more willing to pay because imported wine in China it seems to be a luxury good and brings in a status. And last but not least, color red is considered as a color for fortune, joy, happiness, and others, and also a healthy beverage. In 2016, the 90% of the wine consumption in China was red wine. So now we have the framework which you could see about the local competitive advantage of FFW. So we are going to compete by the provider, the logistic provider, and then he would seek retailers whoever fit better for our product, which would be ultra premium Frederick Family Cabernet Sauvignon, in two types of adaptation, which would be the little bottle, like for the guanchi, and the normal one, the ordinary package, for gifting. We are gonna to organize with any booklet will have a subsidiary in China for branding control and regulatory understanding, and partner with logistic provider. And finally, we are locating in USA for production and in China for selling and marketing research just for that country. Thank you so much for listening to us.